After almost a decade between major releases, Metal Gear Solid has finally made its way back to the release calendar with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, looking to bring the fan-favorite entry of the Metal Gear Solid saga back for old fans and a new audience. Is this worth picking up over the original? Let's find out if Snake Eater is still pretty good, or has just kept us waiting, only to let us down. For those not familiar with the original, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater originally released for the PlayStation 2 in 2004, following the divisive Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, standing as a prequel to both Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2. Snake Eater tells the origin story of Naked Snake, the man who would become the legendary Big Boss, a character whose presence looms over the entire story told in Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and even 4. Big Boss really has made the life of Solid Snake a living hell, on more than one occasion, on more than one console. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is that starting point in the Metal Gear timeline brought to a standard of how a game looks and feels in 2025. And since it happens to be the fan-favorite entry, seeing the game that still gets propped up as a masterpiece taking the spotlight as a new hopping on point, this time without series creator Hideo Kojima involved, makes a lot of sense. But tackling a game with the legacy that Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater still has to this day is no easy task. We've seen a number of remakes that end up being worse than the original or miss the mark in one way or another, but we've also seen some really remarkable reinventions of beloved video games that manage to carve out their own identity and stand beside the original. So how does this latest AAA remake of a beloved classic fare? Well, at the time of recording, the game is sitting with a mighty 87 on OpenCritic, tallying 62 critic reviews, with 93% of critics recommending the game. Looking at the overall sentiment of the morning that the embargo has lifted, it seems that Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is a faithful presentation of the original release that some feel could have done a bit more. It uses the exact same environmental layouts, story, and even dialogue recorded for the original game. Thanks to the inclusion of bonus modes like Secret Theater and Snake vs. Monkey, it does feel like the team put a lot of TLC into bringing Metal Gear Solid back in a big way. That being said, it does seem that the game has been facing some performance issues on a variety of platforms. The game is built on Unreal Engine 5, which has itself been a bit hit or miss on PC for major releases over the past couple of years. For now, the game is capped to 60 FPS on that platform. PlayStation consoles are in an interesting position with the game right now, as it seems this is another instance of the PlayStation 5 Pro version of the game being an overall worse experience compared to the base PS5 version, with Digital Foundry's assessment stating the Pro version has, quote, as many drawbacks as benefits, end quote. Plus, keep in mind, if you are using a PlayStation 5 Pro, you're locked into using the PSSR upscaler, which at the time of recording is disappointing compared to what the base PS5 is able to do with AMD's upscaling tech. But these performance issues still have not stopped the game from receiving an immense amount of praise. Many reviews from longtime fans are quite pleased with the overall package Konami has delivered here, so those who may have been concerned about how the company would treat Metal Gear without Kojima, it seems you can breathe a sigh of relief. GameSpot gave the game a 9 out of 10, saying, quote, Konami's Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake is a safe but successful modernization of a beloved classic, end quote. Hopefully, if you were at all concerned about the remake mistreating the game that you loved growing up, this is going to be good news. For others, though, it seems this remake, being one that mainly focuses on visual control and quality of life reworks, has left a bit to be desired. PC Gamer gave the game an 87 out of 100, saying the game is, quote, a gorgeous remake of a true classic that could, and maybe should, have tried to do a tiny bit more, end quote. And if you ask me, that's understandable and reasonable. We've seen games like Resident Evil 4 from 2023 come along and manage to stay true to why the original worked so well, while also feeling like its own thing. Even last year, we saw Konami deliver something similar with their reinvention of Silent Hill 2. And as a longtime Metal Gear Solid fan personally, the idea of a new take on Snake Eater being a bit more ambitious, considering the franchise is known for its ambition, could have been exciting. And it does seem the biggest ding towards the game, besides its performance woes, is how much of it is really just Snake Eater, and how much that stands out when so much of the rest of the game looks like a modern release. The current lowest review logged on OpenCritic, a 6 out of 10, comes from Well Played, and their review reads, quote, "Fans of the source material will no doubt relish the opportunity to play a more modern feeling take on a generational piece of art, but such a seemingly important work should inspire more." End quote. Now, there were plenty of ways that the conversation today could have been a lot worse. Again, going into this announcement, some fans were hesitant after the fallout Kojima and Konami had. So if Konami's aim with this remake was to reintroduce the world of Metal Gear Solid via a game that looks and plays acceptable and really great for a 2025 audience, it seems that they've accomplished that. The game is as good as its biggest fans remember it being, and a whole new audience will likely see the origin story of the Metal Gear timeline as the least daunting place to hop in and maybe become a fan. Where the series goes from here remains to be seen. We'll have to see just how well the game is received by the general public and how it sells when it launches on August 28th, 2025 for PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series consoles, and PC. But in the meantime, are you excited to pick up Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater? Is it going to be your first time playing a Metal Gear game? Have the reviews swayed you into picking up the game on day one, or are you going to be holding out for some performance patches? Let us know if you're sold and where you would like to see the Metal Gear series go next. If you're asking me, well, I'm still just waiting for Volume 2 of the Master Collection, so Metal Gear Solid 4 can be free from the PlayStation 3. But for more on Metal Gear and the world of gaming, be sure to stay tuned to Game Rant.